The Locket and the Thief. On a lonely, quiet, misty night after midnight in Melbourne, anything can happen, and it did. At that hour, only the reckless and unprincipled wander around. On such a night as this, a straggler from a theater was wandering in the cool, calming night, remembering a lost daughter who he'd lost many years ago on a night like this. This day, to be exact, 28 years earlier. She was murdered with her husband as they walked the street he was in. He came as he always did this night to lay a rose for them. He did so unbothered, for all the times he had come before that night. He pulled out an old locket and looked at it sadly and opened it, looking at the pictures inside it. They were his daughter and her husband. The father pulled a red rose from his inside coat pocket and laid the rose on the wet road. As the father knelt laying the rose, there was a noise nearby on the road like a splash in a puddle. He looked up and saw a man with a gun trained on him. "Don't move," said the gunman. The father did as he was ordered. "What do you want?" asked the father. "That locket," said the gunman, thinking he could fence it for money. "You don't want it, it just has a picture of my dead daughter and son-in-law," said the father. "Give it to me, or you're dead," said the gunman. The father, not wanting to die, gave the locket over to the thief, who left the father crying on the road, cursing his mortality. Later that day, the locket was found on the scene of a murder, not a victim of the thief, but the thief himself. It was taken by the police as evidence, which strangely disappeared in the forensics. The police thought it was stolen, so they identified the people in the photos by evidence photos to find the thief. They were found to be the daughter and son-in-law of the local coroner, who they rightly pick as the thief. Blake, the man in charge of the local police station, said to his grandnephew, the coroner. The coroner guessed why he came. "What, Uncle Ray?" asked Dr. Blake Alexander, the coroner. "Why did you steal the locket?" "It was evidence," said Sergeant Renard Alexander to his nephew. Blake looked away from his uncle, closing his eyes. "It's mine," said Blake, who was too proud to admit to the police he was robbed. "Blake, it is evidence," said Renard sternly. "No, it's mine. He stole it from me, when I was visiting the place Kira and Alex were murdered," said Blake. "What?" Renard said. "He robbed me at gunpoint, telling me he'd kill me if I didn't give him the locket," said Blake. "You are a magician, you could have stopped him with magic," said Renard. "I was scared," said Blake, ashamed. "Of what?" asked Renard. "Can't be of death." "I was," said Blake. "Why? You die all the time, King of Death," said Renard to the King of the Grim Reapers, Blake. "Maybe, but I can't die like that. It would kill me for good, or bad." He saw only dollar signs. "If I did his will, I would live," Blake said. "You should report the robbery to the police officially," said Renard. Blake looked his uncle in the eye and said seriously, "I can't. Just imagine how people would react if they knew I gave in to him and did what he said. Me, the King of Death, and a magician, I'll never live it down." "You're right," said Renard, teasing Blake. "Thanks," Blake said, smiling sarcastically. "If you don't come forward, we can't return the locket to you," said Renard. "Not if I don't give it back," said Blake seriously. "You can't steal evidence, you work for the police," said Renard. "I can," said Blake. "No, you can't, I won't let you," said Renard shortly. "Blake, give it to your uncle," said Dante, who was Blake's assistant coroner and office assistant in the afterlife, walking into the room. "Dante?" said Blake. "I was listening," said Dante. "Eavesdropping, how rude, Dante," said Blake shortly. "Blake, give back the evidence, or I will sick Jack Taylor on you," said Dante. He knew the only man who could annoy Blake enough to make him do the right thing was Jack Taylor. "No, you wouldn't," said Blake. Dante pulled out his mobile phone. "Don't," said Blake. Dante spoke to his phone. "Sally, turn on speakerphone and call Jack Taylor," said Dante to the apricot phone. "Calling Jack Taylor," said the phone. There was a dial tone sound. "Hello," said Jack on the phone. Blake handed over the locket. "Sorry, wrong number," said Dante. "Okay," said Jack on the phone. "If the locket doesn't go to you, Blake, where should it go?" asked Renard. "After it's released," said Blake. "Why not give it to Astra, your granddaughter, Blake?" said Dante. "She is Valkyra and Alexander Merlin's daughter." "Yes, she will love it," said Blake. "I'll try to get it given to her," said Renard said as he looked at the picture of his grandson Astra's father Alex, sadly remembering how happy Astra's parents were together and how much in love they were and how happy they'd be with their daughter having the locket.